Well, welcome back. So this is Wednesday night. Thursday morning, I had to go and have a basal cell carcinoma, a skin cancer removed. But when we got back to the yard, they had already started sandblasting, and boy, there was a lot of progress and a lot of dirt on the boat.
It's quite noisy, but that's the progress of one morning of sandblasting on Clair de Lune. They prepped yesterday, they started the sandblasting today, and you can see they've done pretty much 2/3 of one side. They haven't got round to the rear yet, that will need scaffolding. But yeah, working down one side each. They still have to do the coat through, but wow, they're making some serious progress very, very quickly.
We went to meet with the architects on Thursday afternoon, and I received that photo from Peter at the shipyard. They'd already completed by the end of day Thursday one coat of primer on some sections of the boat. We'll talk a little bit about why they did what sections in a minute. When we got back Friday morning, they were there putting on the second coat of primer, covering the gold with now the grey primer. And we worked to remove the wood heater so they could sandblast that. And removing the wood heater obviously involved welding the hole up and closing that off again. They've been painting and priming also the anchor, getting that ready. And then on Friday morning, the surveyor came and took a whole series of measurements around the boat. So we'll talk about that. All right, time for a little update. Sandblasting went really well. This is what this is. This is all sand. Yeah, but it is a mess. One of my jobs tomorrow is going to be to clean that off, but they primed the side of the boat here. That's 2 coats of primer now on the top. We'll have a look from down below. I've got to be careful not to kick the sand up on the wet paint. Let's have a look and see what else has happened. The other big progress this morning was sealing the hole where the chimney was from the fireplace. That's all been closed in now. So the boat is watertight as far as the top goes, and the surveyor has been, and we finished that. There's Karina coming back down and having a look at the sides. So here's the latest on Clair de Lune. You can see we haven't yet got to the back. They'll need scaffolding for that, but the sides have been done, and we haven't yet done the waterline because under the waterline we had the surveyor in today. We're going to go do a little bit of a tour, but we now have 2 coats of primer. There's a gold under that grey, and then the grey primer, 2 coats of black on that section. You can see that the boat is absolutely filthy. There's a lot of work to go to clean her tomorrow so that we can do more painting next week. Let's go have a look at what the surveyor said. So the surveyor's process is to basically mark and then grind to get to bare metal, and then he has a device. He measures the thickness of the hull. So these are the hull thicknesses. That's 4.3 millimeters, 44.0 millimeters. So 4 millimeter steel. The minimum apparently is 3.5. So actually, the hull is in surprisingly good shape. Yes, there's been some plating, which he's marked on his report. You can see the rivets here, like there's some rivets running, there. So there's the rivets from the original hull. So that goes back to, presumably, that would be from 1907 when it was built. So that's, almost 120 years old. And there's still 4.5 millimeters of steel there. When you come along, you get to this section down here. This section here, which is smooth, the rivets stop. This is where in 1995 she was extended. Most of the hull back this way has been doubled over already. The hull in this section is single plate, but it was probably 6 millimeters when it was put in, so that's all good. There are a couple of sections which need to be overplated, but they're not a lot. So let's go have a look at those. obviously all the anodes have to be replaced. We've spoken about that in the last video. One of the problems is the shaft. The shaft here is quite corroded. You can see that it's narrowing. This will going to have to pull this whole thing out. You can also see that these bolts or nuts on the end of these bolts are, you know, really corroded. So that all has to come off. The propeller itself is in good shape, but we do need to get to the bottom of what's going on. So we're going to pull this plate, pull the shaft out, inspect it. I'm suspicious, I think probably going to have to replace the prop shaft. But pretty important part of the mechanics of the boat, so if it needs to be done, it needs to be done. Now we get to some of the overplating that needs to be added. So you can see here, this section of steel at this point here was 3.0 millimeters, so that's too thin. That needs to be overplated, so that we've now had the shipyard in, we've marked out where the plate's going to go. It's interesting that it's just in this area here and it doesn't extend down, and the reason for that is because A, this is still fairly thick, but also this was hot riveted. So if they weld down to here, it can cause it to expand and the rivets to pop, which you don't want to happen. So that's why the plate stops there. There's a few question marks as well for things which are holes into the boat that we don't know what they're there for anymore. She's now keel cooled, which means that she's not spitting water out over the side. So she's not pulling water in to cool the engine. The suspicion is that this was from the previous engine. So we need to investigate this, because if we can, we will actually cover that over. You can see this point here is 3.1 millimeters. So we're going to put a section of plate just in here, across the top of the rub rail, and we'll probably extend it down to this point here. Yeah, the surveyor said it's not uncommon with these old barges, because when they were commercial, they were, you know, often heavily laden and often, you know, they took a lot of damage at that kind of waterline level, bumping in and out when they were loading. There was a section underneath the bottom, a small spot in the middle there that needs to be welded. A largish 500 by 500, so 50 centimeters by 50 centimeters section of plate that goes about there underneath. And then just where he's painting, a couple of little patches that just need a tiny little weld. So these two here, not even a plate, this is just a spot weld. And that's it. That is it. We're really, really pleased. Apart from the shaft, which obviously the propeller shaft is going to be a fairly significant issue, the hull of this boat is in really good condition. So sometimes it feels like things go very slowly, and then all of a sudden you'll have a day, you know, a period of time over 3 days like this where things just went bang, 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 and it's all happening incredibly quickly. Since Wednesday, we've moved into the dry dock. The hull's been sandblasted. There's primer going onto the boat. The surveyor's been in. We know what we have to overplate and where we need to weld. The boat is coming together. We're super happy that she's not in too bad condition. This morning, Saturday, I went back to the shipyard. Here's a time lapse of me using the pressure washer they set up for me to clean off all of the sand. This makes her ready for some more painting on Monday morning. I hope you've enjoyed this update. It's a little faster. I want to try and keep them moving along like this as I can. There's going to be a lot going on. We're super excited to see the paint as it goes on, and thank you for joining us.